Welcome to the latest installment of the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals post-game pod. Stop me if you've heard this before. The Bengals get a great performance from Joe Burrow, or at least a very productive one, 3 touchdown passes, and still manage to lose a game at Paycor Stadium in which they score 38 points. It's the 4th time this year, Skinny, that the Bengals have scored 33 points or more in a game and lost that game. The defense gives up 518 yards to the previously very struggling offense of the Pittsburgh Steelers. 44-38 is the final. Here's my first question to you. Do you blame the defense, which couldn't tackle on Sunday? It was horrific. Or do you blame just as much the 3 turnovers that were tied directly to Joe Burrow?
It's a fair question, but Mike, it's hard to pin blame on the offense when they score 38, right? It is. Orlando Brown is playing with one leg. I mean, he literally was, and he gave up the last strip sack that Nate Herbig, got on Joe Burrow. He came right around him. It was a scoop and score. Joe had no idea the guy was coming. That happens in the pocket when things like that are going. But I think it shows that that's where you're at with this team. As a poor guy playing on one leg is trying to block edge rushers who are quicker, faster, all those things. And I credit Orlando for trying to do that more than I ding them. I mean, to your point, to your initial question, to your initial stats, Mike, they're 0-4 in games in which they've scored 33 or more points. They're 0-2 in games in which they've scored 38 points. That can't happen in this league. That just cannot. And so I literally just got done with my column. And the lead was basically that the sobering fact is that this is going to take multiple off seasons to fix this defense. They still have Joe Burrow. They're probably still going to have Jamar Chase, and I say probably. They're not going to have T. Higgins. They got to make some other fixes on the offensive line, as goofy as that sounds. And the holes on defense are just so enormous. I don't know how you dig out from under that in an off season or two. It's a big ask.
Well, we can get into where the priorities are on the defense. We can go top to bottom, bottom to top, however you want to phrase it.
They're all the same.
I'll tell you right now, Russell Wilson threw for 414 yards.
My goodness.
3 touchdowns, and the 1 interception, the pick 6 to Cam Taylor-Britt, in which you thought, oh no, are the Bengals actually going to get a defensive score and set the tone of this game early on? And then you had Akeem Davis-Gaither, belting one of the Steelers wide receivers. And you're thinking, wow, the defense is going to make a stand. But that was an interception, Skinny, only because George Pickens fell. Cam Taylor-Britt kind of helped him to the ground.
Yes, he did.
And then he picked off the pass and went in 51 yards. Hip, hip, hooray. But that was Russell Wilson's only mistake. He had 400 yards passing after that pick 6.
They averaged less than 200 yards passing per game, right? And some of that was the early Justin Fields numbers, all those things. But, I mean, Russell Wilson is a fossil, and he has George Pickens and who else? It was check down city all day. I know Jermaine Pratt talked about they ran screens. They didn't run screens. They ran checkdowns because linebackers are dropping 20 yards deep for whatever reason, because Jermaine Pratt is apparently an idiot and Akeem Davis-Gaither is apparently an idiot. That was one of the worst defensive performances I've seen in a long, long time. I have to go back to the Terrell Austin coordinated defense against the Saints years ago when Marvin Lewis, the head coach, that game was as big of a joke as this game was. And so that's where I go back to when you look at today, you go, who on that defense can you count on moving forward? Give me one guy other than Trey Hendrickson. And even if things go well, you probably got one more year of Trey Hendrickson. Who can you count on that defense? There's not a single solitary soul. The safeties suck. The corners suck. Mike Hilton I love, but Mike Hilton is going to be gone sooner rather than later.
He got turned around today. Second touchdown.
Yes, he did.
Austin, who was the wide receiver, I couldn't remember his name right away.
Calvin
Austin III, who turned Mike Hilton around and beat him on a post to the end zone.
And so, Mike, I could literally tell you You need 11 new players to start on defense. That's not feasible in an offseason or two. And certainly maybe there's a guy or two where you go, okay, if there's better players around him, that guy's going to be better. I can probably believe that in some cases. I can. But Miles Murphy's been a bust. Joseph Osai's been a bust. B.J. Hill's an old man. Sheldon Rankins can't get on the field because he's sick. They had a rotation at one point. There was Jay Tufele and McKinley Jackson. They both stink. I mean, this team stinks on defense. And again, it's not one of those where you're like, well, hopefully you get some guys back. All right, maybe Logan Wilson. I can give you he's a serviceable player, but he hadn't been that good this year. This defense needs a total overhaul, and it's not going to occur in one off season.
Okay, we have to discuss Lou Anarumo. What kind of responsibility does he take for not going man-to-man scheme? And we talked about this during halftime.
Yes, we did. We did.
When I came up to you and I said, what do they have to lose by not going man-to-man? Blitz every freaking down. What does it matter at this point? You gave up 27 first-half points to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I believe Russell Wilson was something like 20 of 24.
Something like that, yes.
For already 250 yards in the first half. What do you have to lose? You might as well blitz. Do something aggressive. Play man-to-man. Give your players the accountability that, okay, I'm going to ask you, you've got a man in your responsibility on this side of the field. Take care of it.
No, Mike, you and I talk, like you said, and, one of Russell's incompletions in that first half was the interception that was arguably a penalty on Cam Taylor-Britt. No, I'm with you, because here's the thing. All these games are shootouts, right, at the moment. I mean, every game they play is a shootout. If you want to make it a 56-52 shootout, giddy up. Let's go. If you have a chance to maybe make a play, make a stop because you just said zero blitz, here we come, man-to-man, and you force a quick throw, you force a turnover, you get a rare sack other than Trey Hendrickson, then maybe that flips the field and changes things. I'm kind of with you on that. I don't think this defensive issue is all on Lou Anarumo by any stretch. I don't think you believe that either.
No.
But I do agree with the fact of at some point you go, listen, what we're doing is not working. I want to run my stuff, but our guys can't run our stuff. And so I got to run some other stuff. And the other stuff would be just lining up and going, got 8 guys at the line of scrimmage. Pick out who's coming, who's not. Work on different blitz packages. Work on saying, you know what, we're going to put 8 at the line of scrimmage. We're going to man up on the outside, and you're going to try to guess that the 2 inside guys are coming, or the 1 outside guy's coming, or the 1 inside, 1 outside guy's coming. We're going to drop some stuff. I think it's the only way you can go with this because it's just not a good enough defense to line up and go, we're going to play a 4-2-5, and we're going to rush our 4, and we're going to guard on the outside, and we're going to play some zone, and we're going to make you dink and dunk it down the field. I get his philosophy. I get what he's trying to do. That's great when you have the personnel to do it. You don't. So what do you need to do? To your point, you need to do something different, even if it's so outlandish of going, we're zero blitzing on 40 of 60 plays. We don't care. You want to throw over top and get one? Great. Guess what? Our offense is going to be right back on the field. That gives them 2 extra possessions. And, maybe, again, you create a turnover. You create a quick pass. You create a quick decision. You create a sack. You're not creating anything at the moment, man.
No. And look, you covered Mike Zimmer and Paul Guenther. And the thing that both of those coordinators, especially Zim, was renowned for was his ability to bring pressure from different areas.
Double A gap.
Double A gap. Obviously, he had Geno Atkins. I get that.
Yeah.
And Domenico Pecco. I totally understand that. He doesn't, Lou Anarumo does not have those kind of dogs in the race that the Bengals are trying to run right now. I understand that. But one of the trademarks of the Zimmer-Guenther schemes, Skinny, was he would rotate the pressure, like you said, and you never knew as a quarterback where it was coming from. He'd show it from one area and then bring it from another. He'd disguise, but there would always be pressure on every single play, extra pressure. And it was up to the quarterback to decipher. What happens when you force the quarterback to make that decision? It makes him take usually an extra half second to maybe even, if you're lucky, a full second, second and a half to decipher what he is seeing. And that can be the difference between a tip pass and an interception. and a completion far downfield. The other point I want to bring up here, Skinny, is the dink and dunk defense that Lou is relying on right now is great if you have players to keep the actual plays and ball in front of you like it's designed to freaking do.
Oh, you mean rally and tackle, Mike?
But they are not pursuing to the football. I saw twice today Geno Stone say something to Mike Hilton, and it looked like to me, at least on live action and one replay, like Geno was over pursuing the ball, and then Najee Harris cut backside on him. The middle of the field was wide open, Geno. Wide open. You can't have that. And the whole point of the dink and dunk is, okay, let them have the completion, but force Russell to complete 7 to 8, 10 passes down the field if he's going to do that. And we are going to bet that Russell Wilson at this stage of his career with this particular offense can't do that.
No, and Geno Stone's tackling performance today was one of the most embarrassing I've ever watched. Maybe they have stats that are different than what my eyeballs showed me. I tweeted it out, and I don't like to do this. I really don't. I think at one point I tweeted out, Geno Stone's tackling performance today is literally a highlight reel of how not to tackle. It was so bad. And to your point, if you're going to allow the checkdowns, that's fine in theory, but you got to rally to tackle. How many times did they rally to tackle and a guy would just step away from it and go for another 7, 8, 10 yards? I felt like there was a point where Russell Wilson had like 6 air yards on a drive where he dunked it twice to Najee Harris, and then one Najee came up lame, and he actually, to his credit, came back in the game. And then a screen to George Pickens on the outside that he went for touchdowns. It felt like there was like 6 air yards and probably 70 real yards on 6 air yards, because you know why? You couldn't tackle. And I couldn't believe players after the game, and Zach Taylor after the game talked about, I thought our tackling was fine. If you thought your tackling was fine, then maybe there's your issue right there. Maybe there's the real issue.
I was in the scrum with Jermaine Pratt, and 3 different times the questions were asked.
Oh, yeah.
Kelsey Conway, and I believe, Paul Dana Jr. was in that scrum as well. And we asked and tried to ask in different ways. Paul Dana asked about, what did you think of the tackling, point blank? Well, I thought it was good. I thought that Russell Wilson just got the ball out fast.
Yeah, screen.
Just got the ball out fast. It has nothing to do with your ability to tackle the guy once he catches the ball and heads upfield. I asked, okay, if he's getting the ball out quickly, are you perhaps out of position? Are multiple guys on your defense, out of position if you're not around the ball? He's like, just getting the ball out fast. And then it was Kelsey who said, well, there's got to be some answer for all of these plays and yardage after the catch when he's getting the ball out fast. And Jermaine was like, well, no, he's just getting the ball out fast and they're making plays and they get paid too. I'm like, okay, read the room, Jermaine. You gave up 518 yards to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, in his defense, he is probably, that's his way perhaps of not throwing everybody under the bus.
Sure.
And it sounds better than pointing fingers after the game. It does sound better in that regard. But still, I think fans who hear those interviews, and that's why we're in that locker room as reporters and columnists, is to gather the perspective of the players who played the game. And we see the missed tackles in the press box. Millions of fans see it on TV, guys running free. Why is that? You've got to have a better answer, I think, than what the defensive players had today.
Yeah, and you can use the term we. That includes you if you're Jermaine Pratt, right? You don't have to say, well, this guy should have tackled better or that guy should have tackled better. It can be a we. We need to tackle better. We didn't tackle well today. We didn't do the job today. And literally almost every answer to him was, got to have his hands quick. Screen game. It wasn't a screen game, man. It was a check down game for the most part. There were some screens. There's a big difference between screens and check downs, as I would hope an NFL player would know, but maybe Jermaine doesn't understand the difference between screens and check downs. It was a lot of check down game of Russell would go back and go, oh, wait a minute, Najee, you're 4 yards across the line of scrimmage and they've dropped 12 yards deep. Here, you go. And then that's fine. as long as you rally up to make the tackle. And they rarely rallied up to make the tackle. In fact, there were multiple missed tackles on many plays. And I hate to point the finger of effort. That's the worst thing you can do as a fan, a journalist, a teammate, of questioning effort. But damned if it didn't look like there was a lack of effort where that was good. It looked like Geno Stone was allergic to tackling, or he thought it was a flag football game or a tag football game. He was a joke today.
So I asked Mike Hilton, how shocked are you that you're 4-8 given the talent you thought you had on this team? And he said, earmuffs, it's shitty.
Yeah.
I think it was shitty because I think we're a better team than we're showing. Well,
I don't.
No, Mike. And when I tweeted that video out, and it's on my X feed, @Trags, Trags, you can hear Mike Hilton say, we're a better team than we are. And I'm like, all of the replies in the comments in the section are, no, you're not, Mike. The offense is better than a 4-8 record, but the team isn't, and the defense sure as heck isn't.
I mean, Mike, they're 0-7 against teams above 500. We can argue about the one-score games. I think they're now 1-6, 1-7. I lose track of the numbers sometimes. They got the win at Cleveland, which became a one-score game by default.
Right.
But bottom line is, you are what the numbers eventually suggest you are. I mean, you're 0-7 against teams above 500. You're 0-4 in games in which you've scored 33 or more points. You're 0-2 in games in which you've scored 38 points. That suggests that the defense is a mess. And again, it would be one thing to go, well, they're playing 6 rookies and 2 second-year guys, and they'll get better because it's just that's part of the league. You're playing some veterans. You're playing some rookies who can't play. You're playing some rookies by default. You're a mess. And that's the part for me. I thought this season was still salvageable going into today. I thought you can beat Pittsburgh. They're pedestrian on offense. They do have a good defense, but your offense is good enough to put something in the 20s, and something in the 20s was
better
going
than that.
Correct. Your 20s were going to be good enough to win, and that's going to get you on a roll, and you're going to find a way to work your way back into the playoff picture just because where things are in the season. And now after today, you have to simply go, you have a major, major overhaul. And then the question becomes, do you trust the personnel department front office to fix it? And I hate to be that guy. I don't.
You're not alone, Skinny. I mean, I think you're not alone, but there's major doubt, and that's why a lot of Bengal fans are furious and have been for several weeks. They see the seasons that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are
It's
having.
ridiculous how good they've been, Mike.
Historic, at least in terms of the franchise perspective. We'll just leave it in Bengal history, a quarterback and receiver have not had the years that Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are having. Trey Hendrickson it was a 0-yard sack, but he got another sack today of Russell Wilson, so I believe he has 12.5 sacks now on the season. And the front office, it feels like, is wasting this window. And I think it's fair for a lot of fans to feel like the Bengals blew it. The window's pretty much shut.
Gone.
They sense what you alluded to and very nicely articulated at the top of the pod is that you have a lot of question marks on this roster. The defense needs to be completely overhauled. And you're not only talking about this year, Skinny. You're talking about wasting like 2 to 3 years of Joe Burrow in his prime. That's sinful. And that's why Bengal fans are furious with the front office. And I don't know if it is fixable. You mentioned Joe Burrow. So I asked Joe Burrow after the game. His mood was down, understandably
Oh,
so.
my gosh, for sure.
Very down, very sullen, accepting of the reality. And I asked him, are you conceding the reality this year of not making the playoffs? Here was his answer. Playoffs are the furthest thing from my mind. You never know what can happen, so I'll be putting one foot in front of the other and try to be the best player I can be for the rest of the season, week in and week out. Then that was followed up by Kelsey Conway's question. Do you feel that given your record versus AFC North teams, the structure of the team must change to compete in the division? Burrow's answer. I would say we need to change a lot of things this year. We haven't been good enough to win games, so it starts with your division. We have to do a better job. Okay, Skinny. Skinny, the therapist, interpret that from Joe Burrow.
No, I think it's him trying not to roll everybody under the bus by really saying to the front office, guys, it's on you to fix this, and you have to find a way to fix this. And if you can't fix this, we're not moving forward. And, here's the other part, Mike, and I don't want to jump to there, but I'm going to have to jump there. I mean, you've wasted a healthy Joe Burrow year. How many healthy Joe Burrow years have there been, or are there going to be? I mean, maybe hopefully for the rest of his career, he never misses a game. It's not feasible. It's not the league, but hopefully he never misses a game, and that's fine. But you've wasted a healthy Joe Burrow year, not just a Joe Burrow great year, a healthy Joe Burrow great year. You've wasted a Jamar Chase great year. You've wasted the last year of T. Higgins, and some of this T has been in and out of the lineup, which we know. You've wasted, from what Dan Pitcher has told us, arguably the best year of Orlando Brown's career when he was healthy. And he wasn't healthy today, and it cost him today. But before that, he was playing great football. You've wasted some really good guys, great guys, really good years. And that's the part to me that's really distressing of, okay, so maybe you do find a way in the next 2 years to fix the defense. Can you guarantee me Joe Burrow's playing 34 regular season games the next 2 years? If you can, great, but you can't guarantee
Not at
it.
the rate he's taking hits.
Correct.
And you can say that about any NFL quarterback that steps on the field. The reason it's more alarming and urgent with Joe Burrow is he's taking 10 to 14 hits every single heavy hits.
And some of that's not a
single time.
Yeah, and some of that's not a product of the offensive line. Some of that's not like the one sack he took in the red zone today. People are going to go, oh, they got sacked. Well, he held the ball for 8 seconds, which I get. He's looking to make a play. He doesn't care because it's going to be sacked and you're still in field goal range. So some of those things aren't completely on the offensive line, as you know. I know you know that. I'm just want fans to understand that, oh, he got sacked this many times. Well, one of the sacks clearly was Joe holding the ball too long. But the other one of the other sacks, Nate Herbeck's strip sack, was poor Orlando Brown's playing on one leg. I mean, there were 2 plays prior to that, Mike. I don't know if you noticed or not. They ran a toss sweep to Chase Brown, and he's trying to be a lead blocker, and he's literally limping on one leg. And I turned to Paul and I went, get him out. This is ridiculous. The poor guy's playing on one. Just get him out. This is not fair to him or anybody else. God love Orlando for being a gamer to try it, but those things add up in a season, right? I mean, I can't believe, Mike, we are here 2 years removed from an AFC Championship close loss in Kansas City a year after they went to the Super Bowl. It's crazy to think they're here, but the missteps that this front office has taken along the way have cost them so dearly.
Okay. We note there that Joe Burrow obviously is calling out things have to change. He's referring to the front office and the coaching staff. That's safe to assume.
Correct.
Right there. He has also got his eyes and ears open for his teammates in the locker room. I want to read you this quote.
I remember it. I know where you're going with this. This is a great one.
I think we'll learn a lot about who we have in the locker room, the guys we can count on going forward, and the guys we can't. The next 6 weeks will say a lot about who we can count on and who we can't. Boom. End of story. That's Joe Burrow telling you you're either with us or get the hell out of the way. And he's obviously not going to name names, okay? We understand that. But if I watch that game today, I think I know who he's talking about.
I know some of them I think he's talking about, but does the front office understand that? Or does
that's where – let me jump in here.
Yeah,
Skinny.
Sure.
He needs, in no uncertain terms, to let Mike Brown know, Katie Blackburn know, Troy Blackburn know. He needs to let everyone in the front office know. He needs to let Zach, Duke, everyone. This is what I see. This is what I hear. And this is what I'm playing with.
Okay.
Period.
So that's a great point. So let me give you not a counterpoint to that, but an addendum to that. What if the front office looks at him and goes, shut up, man, you got paid. Walk away.
And then he can say, okay, well.
That's my fear. That's my fear, Mike, is they just go, we got this, dude. You got paid. Just go do you. You go do you. Well, I fear that.
Okay, and if I'm Joe Burrow and I'm putting my career, I don't care how much I got paid. If I'm putting my career on the line, then I'd start dropping subtle hints. And, I don't pull a Carson Palmer. I don't do it as
That was pretty overt. That was pretty overt.
That was overt.
Yeah.
That was public. We all know. And as you have told me on this very Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod before, several weeks ago, that Carson Palmer did not get paid. Joe Burrow has gotten his money. There's a big difference between the two.
Sure. No question. But there's a part of me, because we've heard more inside stuff lately from other players. I thought the Whitworth stuff on the one podcast was pretty interesting. I kind of knew some of that.
Yeah.
I didn't know the direct correlation of that. I knew some of it. I knew a little bit of the behind the scenes, but not completely to where he opened up about that. That would be distressing to me, where he sees the writing on the wall, or saw it and had to deal with Katie and Troy. And so there's a part of me that, does Jamar get paid? I don't know the answer to that. You know me, I've been on the camp of, but hear me out. Maybe it comes to the point where they go, but we're not going to do this. That's fine. But if you want to take that money and then fix the rest of the roster, go for it. I don't trust them to take the rest of the money and fix the roster. That's the part that bothers me.
I trust them to try and fix it.
Correct.
I don't trust them to properly
fix
do
it. Yes.
Correct. Because people are going to hear that and go, oh, because they're going to keep the money and pocket the money.
No, they're not going to do that. No, they'll spend the money. I don't
they'll
doubt that.
They'll spend the money.
Yeah.
I just don't trust their judgment.
I don't either.
On players. So
that's where it comes down to. I know people want Mike Brown to make hard decisions on Lou and Zach and other coaches and go, get rid of them. It doesn't matter if you don't make hard decisions on the people that are piecing the roster together, which includes himself, Troy and Katie, Duke's the people that work for Duke. If you can't make those hard decisions, then what are we talking about here? You guys can, as fans, can point the finger at Lou and Zach all you want. And I'm not here to be a shill for them. To your point, Mike, I'm kind of with you. I mean, if I'm Lou, I'm just saying to hell with this. I'm going to zero blitz everything, and I got to do something different. I can't do the things the way I want it to be done. So I'm with you on that. And if you're Zach, maybe you have to figure out a way to go, you know what, we got to shorten possessions, and we got to just play more ball control, even though it's not our thing. And we got to keep the ball out of the other team's hands because we don't trust our defense. So some of this is on those guys to figure that part out. But at the end of the day, when the roster is so bad, especially on the defensive side of the ball, who's to blame for that? The coaches or the people putting the roster together?
When the Steelers got punched in the mouth today, what happened?
They responded.
They responded. My issue with the Bengals is the Bengals, to their credit, to Keem Davis-Gaither's credit, and you could say he had a crappy game tackling.
He did.
And was out of position. But I did see energy. Fans saw the energy.
Sure.
You could see it on the X, on the timeline. I'm all for, I saw it many times, I'm all for this kind of energy from the Bengals. Where has this been all year? That's good. And, you know, if fans can accept poor play, technical play, if they sense that the energy, that the players are trying to bring the energy and be the aggressors against a team like Pittsburgh and not get rolled over. Well, for a quarter, I'm thinking, oh, this is that game back in 2020, the famous Von Bell game.
Yep.
Where he lays out, help me.
Juju. He laid out Juju.
Smith-Schuster.
And the famous Ryan Finley game.
Yeah, and the famous, the meme that will live on in infamy in Bengal history with him smiling at the goal line or the first down. Was that first down?
I think it was a goal. I think it was a read option. He went for a touchdown.
That's right, and he smiled. But anyway, I thought back to that game because that was the game that famously kicked off the new attitude in Bengal culture that we're not going to get kicked around. We're going to do the kicking. And I'm like, okay, for one quarter, I saw it. But then the Steelers responded. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. Like we saw, you know who else did that, Skinny? The Ravens. The Ravens were down 10 points, not once, not twice, 3 times in the second half and responded every time. I don't see the Bengals did do that against the Chargers, but unlike the Ravens and the Steelers today, the Bengals could not finish off that game against the Chargers.
I mean, Mike, you had them 3rd and 4. people can argue, and they may. I haven't looked at the Twitterverse on this or the Xverse on this of whether they should have taken the holding penalty or not inside of 2 minutes. I thought it was the right decision. It stops the clock.
You don't want to give them another snap.
Correct. It stops the clock. It's not 3rd and 1. If it was 3rd and 1, then you take the penalty. It's 3rd and 4. 3rd and 4 is not in the NFL a completely makeable 3rd down. And you had a chance to make a play and get off the field. And instead, you have a rookie corner who doesn't know how to set the edge, who got sucked in for whatever reason, who's played read option football probably his whole career in the Big 12, Josh Newton. And I think Josh is going to be a serviceable backup cornerback. He's not a starter. I think that's kind of been proven quickly. No, but not yet. Yeah, not yet. That's a good point. I shouldn't discount the whole thing, but you're right, not yet. But the kid gets sucked in. But you know what you had a chance to do there, Mike? You did have a chance to make a play, get your team the ball back. It was a long shot, right? It was going to be a minute left by the time they punted, maybe under a minute. But it gave you a shot. It gave you it gave you a chance, and you couldn't even get a stop there. I mean, that's the thing. That's the disappointing part is you couldn't even get one there. When they brought a running quarterback on the field,
and they were was coming.
They were doing two things. They were handing it off on the read option, or he was going to pull it and run. And your cornerback went, what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, that's more inexperience than
it is. Else. But it's not like he hasn't seen it before.
Let me read one more Joe Burrow quote.
Yes.
Because
he was great. I thought he was great. I thought
phenomenal.
He was great. He was weak early. He was like giving you the quick stuff. And then I thought as the thing went along, I think it was catharsis for him. I'm sorry to cut you off, but I thought he was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this is Joe Burrow. You try to give your opinion in ways that you feel comes off the best. This is a tough season, and the cornerstones of this organization are going to be remembered by more than this season. We will be remembered by how we handle this. It's still an exciting opportunity to go out and play for this city and this team week in and week out. That's something I don't take for granted, especially with my injury history. I've been on the sidelines, and that's not a fun feeling. I love being out there with the guys for the city, the team, and the ownership. I love playing. That is Joe Burrow touching so many bases. There is so much there, Skinny, to unpack.
Yeah, I think it clearly he understands that, hey, I'm playing in an injury-free season, man. This doesn't happen to me all the time. I wish it did. I wish I was always going to be this healthy. And here I am healthy this year, and we're 4-8. And I think he does the one thing. Listen, he's a bit of a goofy kid. I do believe that, but I do believe this. He loves playing football. He loves.
No question.
He's a guy, Mike, and as a basketball coach myself, a high school coach, I hate. This is so crazy, and I think he's in that boat. I hate losing more than I like winning. That's the dumbest thing you can ever hear. But I've always looked at Joe and go, I admire you because I think you hate losing more than you like winning. I think you think winning is what we're supposed to do. It's what we're paid to do. It's what is the byproduct of the work we do. And the losing he hates. And I think he's at his wit's end with, I don't know how to process this anymore because I've never been through this in my life. Never through it in high school. Even as a backup at Ohio State, never threw it at Ohio State, never threw it at LSU. I mean, his first year, was he a loser? The first year, because he got belted around as a rookie quarterback in a weird year, and that was going to be a losing season no matter what. I think him processing that was just him getting his feet wet. So all those things were in play, right? He's a rookie quarterback. And then second year in the league, dude goes to the Super Bowl and realizes this is what you do. This is what you win. I'm a winner. And all of a sudden now, no offense, this isn't on him. Don't take this the wrong way, fans. He's now a loser. And I don't know if he understands how to handle that, nor should he. And I think that's the part of that I took of, I don't understand what losing's about. I'm not about losing. I've never been a loser. And yet here you are, guy. You're a loser.
I'm going to give you two analogies.
Yep.
When I was walking out of Paycor Stadium after the game today, and I thought to myself, two Dans. Dan Fouts, Eric Coryell, Dan Marino, the 80s Dolphins.
Yep.
And it has eerie overtones.
Great call.
That remind me of those two quarterbacks. Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Obviously, Joe Burrow, he's very young in his career.
He's getting there,
Hall
though.
of Fame,
yes.
Hall of Fame talent. Anybody who has a pair of eyes can see that. Anybody who has a pair of eyes and has watched football like we have knows that Joe Burrow is a special type of NFL quarterback. Those two quarterbacks didn't have defenses. And it was almost professional. What is the word I want to use here?
Malfeasance.
Thanks, malfeasance.
I don't know if that's the right word, but I gave you a word, Mikey.
Oh, I'm going to give you one off malfeasance. Operational functional malpractice. Football malpractice.
Fair enough.
By not surrounding those two guys with competent to good defenses that would have at least gotten them to the AFC Championship every year. Now, Dan Fouts did. He got to the 80, and everybody remembers the Ice Bowl,
the 81,
Freezer Bowl in
81.
81.
Yep.
That was it. I mean, essentially. And he fell off the cliff in terms of his teams did. Then you take a look at Marino's Dolphins. Again, very, very good teams offensively.
Oh, my word.
Obviously. But they just didn't have the defenses. And actually that was Marino came on the scene in 83, right?
Correct.
So that his rookie year would have been it would have been his rookie year when he went to the Super Bowl.
No, he was second year. 84.
Second year.
84. Yeah.
84. That's right. But anyway, you had that no-name Dolphins defense number 2 version. Obviously not the one from the 70s. But you had that defense that you thought might stick around. And then after that, nothing.
Off the cliff.
Right.
And it was a different era, obviously. It wasn't free agency like we have it today. There weren't rookie contracts like we have it today. But it was an era of they needed to fix those things, and neither organization ever did. Dan Fouts, even after 81, he had many, many more good years. Dan Marino, obviously, after 84, had many, many more great years. But to your point, you can't allow this to happen to Joe Burrow. You just cannot. He's too good of a player and again, I know, listen, in a perfect world, you'd have T. Higgins and Jamar. You're not. You're going to have Jamar and whatever else. And you know what he's going to do? He's going to be just fine. He is going to be just fine as a quarterback.
This is not about keeping Jamar.
Correct.
Well,
it is. But it's not about keeping T. It's about fixing the other side of the football to give them a chance to not have to win every game 38-35. And guess what? They can't even get to 38 and win games.
I hope this has been as therapeutic for our audience, who obviously very loyal, passionate Bengal fans. That's why we have the Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals postgame pod to dissect everything that took place on Sunday. Not just the loss, the 44-38 loss that all but eliminates any playoff hope, for the final 5 games of the year. The Bengals have road games at Dallas, at Tennessee, home with Cleveland and Denver, finish up at Pittsburgh. 4-8. Look, it ain't happening. And I think every Bengal fan
Today was it.
Today was it. And we all understand that. But Burrow's message after the game about I'm keeping my eyes open, both for the front office and for the players who are either with us or not going to be with us after this year. I thought that was the biggest takeaway in the world.
I'm with you. I used, I think, all 3 quotes that I wrote my column right before you and I did this podcast. And I think I used all 3 quotes because I thought they were all poignant. I thought he was really good because, initially I'm like, okay, Joe, you're going to give quick answers, and I get you're frustrated. But, man, as it went on, I think he decided to say, you know what, I'm opening this up, and I'm just going to give what I feel and where I think this needs to go. And if people in the front office and in this organization listen, and if they don't, they don't. But I'm going to give where I'm at. And I thought he was great.
All right, what you working on, Skinny?
That's it. I just got done with my column, Mike, along those lines of how sobering today's loss was, not just because it put a fork in the season, but because it literally showed that you've got a couple of seasons, off seasons, to overhaul this defense. It's not going to just take one off season, in my opinion, Mike. It's going to be a couple. Can Joe Burrow keep you in games in the meantime? Yeah, probably. But I think we're probably faced with more of this if you don't go find a way to fix this defense. And I'm not sure I've got a lot of faith in the front office to go do it.
All right, he is Richard Skinner, Local 12 Skinny on the X. You can follow him, of course, on local12.com. Be sure to follow all of his Bengals coverage there. Tremendous stuff, as always. I will have my column up on CLNS Cincy with a Y.com. My game recap and takeaways already up there with a post-game video from the frigid Arctic turf of Paycor Stadium.
It was cold. It was cold.
How about this, Skinny? I said, the cold, hard facts and the cold, hard truth hit the Bengals and Joe Burrow in the face today.
That's why you're the best. By the way, I want people to know this. Mike was in the greater Los Angeles area yesterday, literally yesterday, for a wedding. Tell people who the wedding was for, A, and B, your commitment to your job. I made fun of you today, as you know, because I like to make fun of you because you're a
make it easy.
You do. You make it easy. You're a great punching bag. But your commitment to your job, to do what you did to get back to cover this game, I want people to know that because, trust me, I don't impress easy, Mike. I'm impressed with what you did because I know the sacrifice you made. So tell people where you were and what you did to come back.
Well, my lovely Deborah Ann, her oldest daughter was getting married and got married yesterday in a phenomenal ceremony back in the LA area. So had to go where the Bengals were just 2 weeks ago. Flew out there on Wednesday. Katie and Paul Moon just got married in Palisades. Oh, just a perfect heavenly backdrop with the Pacific Ocean in the background. It was phenomenal. But it was a lovely, lovely ceremony. And that was yesterday afternoon at 4 o'clock Pacific time. Spent about 2.5 hours at the ceremony. Did a little dancing. Of course, got my meal in. That's the most important thing.
Of course.
Took an Uber over to LAX. And it wasn't very far, I must say, even for a holiday weekend. It was about a 25-minute Uber ride. Then got on the red eye at 10:10 back to Cincinnati. And got an hour of nap back here at the Manse in northeastern Cincinnati, and then made my way back down at 9 a.m. to cover the Bengals. And
You're amazing. You are ridiculous and amazing. It kills me. It was great, though, and good for you.
So Joe Burrow loves football. I love to cover football.
I know you do.
People like Skinny.
Absolutely. I know you do, for sure, Mike. It's great stuff.
All right, so that will wrap it up for this Jungle Roar Skinny Bengals post-game pod following a Steelers 44-38 win. By the way, I did not mention this, Skinny. It was the highest scoring affair between these two teams in the long history of the rivalry, which today was the 110th meeting between the two old AFC rivals. At no time had 82 points ever been scored. The previous high was 80. Remember the game?
80, remember that?
It's a classic. Bengals were up 31-13.
Was it 19. I was saying, you said 19. I remember the 19. I was going to say the game where they scored the screen pass at the end of Martavius Bryant. I believe.
No, that was later in the 2000s.
Okay, no, give it to me. I love this stuff.
1995 Riverfront Stadium. The Bengals led 31-13 early in the third quarter, and the Steelers scored the next. I want to get the math right. 36 points.
Was that
49-31?
Was that a Neil O'Donnell or a what's his name, Stewart game?
Cordell Stewart.
Cordell Stewart game.
Yes.
Wow. I was going to say, I'm going to guess between 74 and 77. They might not have scored 80 points combined in the matchups.
No. I absolutely, but I just thought nobody expected there to be 82 points scored today, and that you never know. That's why you play the game, Skinny.
Indeed.
All right, we got to wrap it up here.
Yep, for sure.
He's Richard Skinner, Skinny. Get his stuff at local12.com. I'm Mike Petraglia, Trags. Follow me on the X at Trags, TRAGS, as well as the YouTube page, youtube.com/@JungleRoarPod. Until next week when the Bengals play the Cowboys on Monday night, he's Richard Skinner. I'm Mike Petraglia. Thanks for watching.